Hello, everyone. My name is Anubha. Today, I am going to talk about mastering multi API gateways, how my journey started, how we end up having the multi API gateways, and what the strategy that we used. I'm going to share in this talk. So, before I start, I want to start with a confession. We did not plan for multi API gateway. We started with the single API. So with that, I would like to share where I am come from, which is I am an executive director at Quest Diagnostic. I am leading platform engineering. We provide the services on through the API management, DevSecOps, SRE, quality engineering, and my expertise is around cloud native transformations. And I'm yes passionate about APIs and how API is transforming the customer experience. So with that, I would like to go into where I'm going to take you into the next 10 to 20, 20 minutes. Okay, so I will first start with the inflection points. What is the reason why this problem started, and then how did we come up with the kind of the solutions around it? So this is why it's important to understand the root of the challenge. I will talk about the vision, multi strategy, and then we'll end up more on the strategy to the execution, and we'll share my final thoughts. Sounds like a plan. Okay, so let's go to this slide. This is the journey, this is the reality. We had single monolithic gateway, beautiful picture, all the teams they were using one gateway, the less security posture, all the APIs are going through and following the same standard security policies. Onboarding customer developer experience was great, and the complexity was not there in terms of the monitoring and logging because it's a one single pane of the glass. So that's everything was coming into the one dashboard. Great. But then we see that teams, when they start scaling, team wanted to use their own tools, own API gateways, and then they started leveraging that. Okay, I am on this cloud provider. Why do we have to use the another gateway? I want to use mine, because they wanted to move faster. They were looking some flexibility. And the another layer of complexity came up when we had M&A, and then as a part of this M&A activity, the companies, the teams, they were bringing their own infrastructure. And then the third layer of complexity was tr- this whole modernization efforts, when the legacy applications, they have their own set of the A gateway. So you can see the journey on this picture, starting from single monolithic to the significant challenges that we start seeing: inconsistency in the security policies, OAuth, OIDC. It's very inconsistent. Some teams are doing, some teams were not doing, not following the standard. It is hard to have the tracing, monitoring, logging consistent across all the gateways. Scaling was becoming a problem because as we wanted to move faster, it's becoming a bottleneck, because yes, team was independent working, but underneath it's a business process, so it's difficult to move faster. And then yes, finally we start seeing the poor developer experience, because if the developers are moving from one team to another team, the onboarding experience was very different. That is not, this picture is not the only problem. There is another set of the things that like to share is the explosion. You can see on the right hand side, as the APIs are increasing, the complexity was exponential. It was not linear. And the first thing, let's talk it through step by step. On your left hand side, as I shared, team wanted to move faster, which was the one reason. Another was more as a API economy that was moving fast, because microservices, distributed architecture, integrating with the third party partners. They have their own set of these APIs, and multiple type of the mobile apps. So different kind of, as the different type of the business cases evolving, it's coming up with the own set of the API gateway. The good thing is that this is not a problem, this is an opportunity. That means that this complexity is a byproduct of the business growth. So the next section, I will talk about why multi API gateway emerges. As I already shared, the team flexibility, they wanted to have their own set of the tools. The another driver was the distributed system. In the distributed systems, that as that we, some teams they have a multi cloud strategy. We have on prem solutions, the application sitting on the on prem. Some teams are on the one cloud, another one is a different cloud. So that was the reason, very valid reason, they have their own gateways. The third driver was one size cannot fit for everything, which means that it depends on the case by case basis. So one use case related to the legacy related gateway, we decided to leave that as it is and focusing on the different one. So depending upon the use cases, there is a need, then why teams they decide to go with the multi API gateway. And then the final one, as I mentioned before, M&A and legacy systems, they are the another driver. Means then as we are done this merger and acquisitions, right? And that's where it's bringing their own infrastructure, own set of the tooling. So this is the one side of the area where team they actually use the multi API gateway. The another thing is, question is, why single API gateways emerge? Simplicity. As you know, that enterprise teams, they prefer to have simplify, lane the lens when it comes to the API gateway, because it has the centralized control. The other reason that it actually helps the security issues, because now you have the less surface of the security posture. That is the another reason why teams, companies, they decide to go with the, at the enterprise, a single API gateway, because it's bringing the standard, it's bringing the consistent developer experience. And then finally, cost reduction, less overhead, less operation cost. So because it's bringing the more operational efficiencies, single way of monitoring, logging, tracing, this whole end-to-end monitoring is easier because it is coming through the one system, one API gateway. Yes, some teams they prefer to go with the single API gateway. So my talk is not about you use multi API gateway or the single API gateway. That's not what. It depends on the your team need. If you want to go with multi API gateway or single, it's absolutely team decision. This focus is more around, if you hit in that area the complexity, when the team started to moving fast, when your organization is scaling faster, and when you have a multi API gateway, what is the strategy that you should use? And my next section is about this, because multi mastering the multi API gateway, it is the byproduct, the innovation. So the real challenge was not having the multiple API gateway. The real challenge was not having the strategy. That's the whole area, was that how do we bring the standard across the team, how do we reduce the security posture, how do we bring the consistencies, how we bring the the single pane of the glass, pane of the glass, in terms of observability and monitoring. That was the goal, right? So this is the strategy that we apply in order to manage this multi API gateway. First one was unified governance. That is the important part, that we define the standard, These are the standard that we are going to follow. So it is that central of enablement, whether it's the product, whether it's the operations, the security, the CI/CD, all those standard, it is the defined. Second step was how do we enable the federated security model? Means then policy as a code, leverage the policy as a code. So the team, they are following those standard and then API design standard, but at the same time we have through the systematic CI/CD pipeline using policy as a code. The third driver was that having the consistent view of ingestions of the monitoring logging into the one central system, so that at least team, we can see, operations team can see when they are triaging the problem. So have some intelligence traffic management for across all the gateways. That is the third driver. The fourth strategy pillar was developer experience, some a DevX platform where developers, they are using whichever the team is leveraging, but they have this consistent experience through the DevX platform. So these are the four pillars in terms of managing this chaos of the multi, because of the multi API gateway. So this is the strategy. The next question, what was the architecture behind this? And that was the architecture. As you can see on the top layer, that was the every team, multiple teams, they are using their own gateway options. They have their own API specific issues. They are doing following the standard API design and development. The top layer, the orange one, is more around the API to the the team specific API development. The middle layer is about the unified API developer platform, which was providing those policies, controls, whether it's the security enhancement, the CI/CD integrations. It's important because we cannot move faster if we are not automating this. And then having the one view of the monitoring and observability. That is the more on the unified DevX kind of the platform. The last row is the outcome, the business outcome. That's is start seeing that we start seeing that the unified policy control team were more confident on the reliable deployments because it's going through the consistent way of the CI/CD platform, and it has the reliability, observability solutions, and then yes, one way of getting the compliance and auditing reports. So that is the about the architecture. The next section I will cover, things looks good on the paper, but when we apply in the real time, we see the challenges. So these are the challenges, high level challenges that we see as we are going through with this transformations. The first was organizational resistance. Again, the organization, these people, they resist not just because they don't want to, they want to, but they feel it that how is going to help us. Is it too much control? Will it impact my flexibility? So taking that as a part of this journey was important, so that they see the value. That was the one part. Second challenge that we see adopting this strategy is the tooling inconsistencies, because every team, they want to use their own standard CI/CD, own standard of the logging and auditing. Very valid, concerns, the challenge. I will share what are the step-by-step approach that we use to overcome these challenges. But here I am walking you through what type of the challenges that we saw as we are adopting this four pillar strategy. The third challenge was the lack of visibility, because the shadow APIs is a real problem. Every team, they use their own set of the API. The API discovery at the enterprise level is crucial. It is important, but not every organization they do it. So real problem. We have the similar problem that the shadow API is here and there. Is still that the poor documentations that's not available. So that was the another challenge. The final one was more around siloed budgets, because now this DevX platform, it was a product. It was not just the API gateway, it was a product. So have the proper governance to fund this initiative was the another challenge. So the next section is the step by step that we follow. Is the first step is the baseline. Have the API inventory as an example. If you don't know that what is the footprint of our APIs and how do we solve the problem, so that is why the baseline was first step. Whether it's the how many APIs that we have, how many gateways that we have, what teams they are using, what type of the APIs they are using, create the baseline. That was the first. Second one was define the standard around the policies, around the monitoring, logging, the in terms of the API design, have the standard around this. That was the second step. The third step was that central of enablement. And when we talk about the central of enablement, is not just coming from one function; it is the cross-functional product, operations, security, development, DevSecOps, right? It is coming more as a cross-functional team. They are defining and then ensuring that how do we enable this strategy, multi-API gateway strategy across the enterprise level. The fourth step was in terms of how do we automate, because automate everything, it is the principles that we adopted. If we are not automating, that it's what's difficult to move faster. So how do we make sure that this the API life cycle through this gateway which talking about, it's coming through the pipeline. The fifth step was incremental rollout. That instead of rolling it out at for every team, we started identify some of the teams who are interested to leverage this platform, and then start showing the value. Because when other teams they see the ROI, yes, if they are investing and partnering with us, it is the real value. So we identify a few teams as a change agent, and then partner with them, and then roll out function by function. And then the final one was more around measure and iterate, because the measurement is the important piece, is they, so that start seeing the value. And that was that they see it, this is the implementations, that is the value it's coming, so start measuring, and then again iterating to the next feedback loop. So these are the final steps, 6 steps that we adopted in order to execute this strategy. Okay, so the final one is the third, right? So again, I am restating that having the multi API gateway is not a problem. We have seen that when we don't have a strategy, because success is not about to having the modern gateway. It is about how you are building the platform that is consistent and governed. And one important thing that I would like to share: standard layers plus team autonomy, that is bringing the real innovations. So key takeaway is multi API gateway supports team level autonomy. It's bring the flexibility. It is bringing the innovations in your organization. So start adopting the strategy to make it successful and bring the value to your business. With that, I would like to say thank you.